How many of you have ever engaged in any form of debate? If you have ever participated in a debate, please raise your hand. Wow, a lot of debaters here. So, speaking of the word debate, what would Well, when I asked this question to my classmates and teachers, they mostly mentioned the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, and perhaps that's what most of us think about debate. But actually, I would like to tell you that there are much more civilized and formal forms of debate, and I will demonstrate them one by one in my speech. Yeah, actually, as you can see, I'm kind of nervous because I'm more like a debater instead of a speaker, and we debaters aren't used to reciting our scripts. So yeah, thanks for all of you being so understanding and embracing. So let's move on. The first major form of debate is called the British Parliament debate. So I know Wang Yejie is very mastered in such a form of debate. And basically, you have two sides in the British Parliament, being the government and the opposition, and you have four teams. So each team will represent their side and speak 7 minutes impromptuously. And that requires great impromptu skills. And I'm not too familiar with this debate, so let's move on to the second one, the World School debate. Well, actually, this is kind of similar to the Chinese debate or 华语辩论. And yeah, I just represented my class to take part in such a debate. And basically, you have three propositions and oppositions, and at last, a final focus speech. And yeah, so let's move on to the debate form which I am most used to, the public forum debate. Well, this debate is most acknowledged in the United States. And yeah, as you can see, you have the first affirmative speech, the negative speech, and also a crossfire. Then you have the rebuttal, and then you have a summary and a grand crossfire, and finally you have the final focus. And I am the second speaker, so I'm mainly in charge of the rebuttal speech, the crossfire, and the final focus. So let's move on to why we, or in particularly me, why I love debate. Yeah, as you can see, in my opinion, lots of reasons account for the charm of debate. And the first one is called confrontation versus consensus. So in my opinion, the essence of debate, in simple words, is to confront your opponents and prove that your side is right. However, such confrontations won't be arbitrary. It is based on a single mutual topic. This is why debaters share common standards of judging a debate, called the framework. So basically, the framework is about the overall impacts on society, the number of lives one side can save, and of course, a lot of other things. So basically, if you are going to prepare about a debate topic, you must first think about the framework and which aspect this topic is most engaged in. For instance, the environment, or the economy, or healthcare, etc. And you must elaborate your whole script based on this framework. And moving on to the second point, which is impromptu based on preparation. So apparently, preparation is irreplaceable for any debate, even for debates such as the British Parliament, which leaves you literally little or no time for preparing a long speech. Debaters must prepare contentions, cards, rebuttals in advance for public forum, and also yearbooks as for British Parliament, etc. Moreover, in the process of preparing, you are cultivating the tacit understanding between you and your partner, which is crucial in the game of debate. That's it. There are always sit-in occasions that may occur anytime during a debate, and this requires the ability of improvising. So, in my opinion, it is both the most challenging and most thrilling part in a debate to improvise. And as a second speaker, I improvise a lot in the rebuttal and crossfire speeches because you can never estimate what your opponents will say. So yeah. The key to overpowering your opponents is to surprise them with new points while responding improvisingly to their new points. And let's move on to the third point, which is appealing above clashes. So there are always conflicts we cannot solve in a debate because your opponents are never going to give in to you. However, winning a debate requires not the winning of each point, but the acquisition of the approval of all the judges. This is why debaters seek to persuade and appeal the judges effectively over any other goal. You may never win a clash in the eyes of your opponents, but this won't hinder you from persuading the judge. And I will continue to demonstrate some basic skills you need to persuade the judge, which brings us to the fourth point. Well, this is also an essential part of debate and a feature of debate which makes me very interested. Reasoning beyond facts and numbers. So reasoning is what differentiates debate from arguing randomly with your classmates or your teachers or parents. The basic weapon we rely on to prove that we are right is undoubtedly facts and figures. But since a coin has two sides, pro and con can always find equally relevant evidence. So now what matters, especially for those enhanced debates and debaters with equally profound debate skills, is how you link your evidence you found to your statement. Well, for this one, I would like to have an example. If you want to prove that the debaters that already spoke before me were more intriguing, you must find some evidence. See, for example, you can say that more people were listening rather than looking at their phones when they were speaking. Or you can say that more eye contact and gestures and nodding occurred during their speech. And after you found evidence supporting your contention, you must link your evidence to your statement. For example, you must prove that increased eye contact or nodding indicate increased attention. And this is the crucial part of reasoning. So, therefore, the warrant is also crucial to a persuasive contention. Now, after a demonstration of the charm of debate, I will move on to share my debate experiences in PF for your reference. So, it is very difficult to conclude the long process of preparing a debate in a few minutes. I'll try my best, yeah. So let's start with figuring out a role. So in a debate team, you must work with one teammate in PF and 2 or 3 teammates in World School debate and even more teammates in other forms of debate. So this requires strong teamwork. Which speaker will you be? Are you better than at speaking passionately and taking the first hand, or are you at impromptu crossfires and responding to your opponent's points? You must communicate and then determine your role. So take PF as an example. I was initially the first speaker, so I was first in charge of reading our constructives and doing some summaries, but gradually I have found that I wasn't so good at making summaries, and I enjoyed those thrilling impromptu rebuttals and crossfires and engaging with our opponents more. So I communicated with my teammate, and then I switched to the second speaker. So now I am a kind of ferocious second speaker, and I enjoy my role very much. So moving on to the second point, which is building our script together. So the script is the essence of literally any debate. All the contentions must go under the mutual framework I've just mentioned. And constructive speeches, rebuttals, summaries, and focus all should be linked closely through this inner logic. The crossfire questions also requires your cooperation. So you cannot write your script separately because you might be talking about different things compared to your partner. Yeah. So let's move on to the third part called rebuttal. So I'm mainly in charge of the rebuttal, and I believe I have kind of a profound understanding in this part. And a rebuttal speech refers to responding to your opponents. And since your opponents will also present their case to you and the judges, you must make responses and show the judges why your rebuttal can respond to all their points and why their points does not stand, and also why do you make a bigger impact. So there are a few essential techniques in the rebuttal speech. The first one is deny. Well, to make it simple, it means telling the judge that your opponent's points does not stand. And the second one is minimize. This means acknowledging your points, but telling the acknowledging the opponent's points, but telling the judge that their points simply does not matter. For example, they impact significantly less lives and people than us, so our points have a bigger influence and should be the major stakeholder of this debate. And the third point is pretty subtle, and it is called turning. So this basically means telling the judge that their point stands, but their point is actually support for our contentions. And the last one is alternative, which means providing an alternative to the problem that your opponents mentioned, and telling the judge that their way isn't unique, while our way of solving this problem is unique and necessary. So let's move on to the final part of summarizing, focusing, and weighing. Well, I'm not a first speaker, so I'm not quite familiar with this, but I'll do my best to demonstrate such an important skill in debate. So my partner and my teachers, my debate tutors, think that the most important ability needed to persuade a judge is to summarize, focus, and weigh. So in the summary and final focus speeches, you gotta focus on one or two major conflicts, emphasize them, tell the judge what our impacts and our opponents' impact are, and tell the judges and opponents why we outweigh them. So yeah, that's basically about summarizing, focusing, and crystallizing. And I also got a few tips in a photo. I'm not sure if you can see it on the big screen. It's kind of small, but I think I can make it shorter. So basically, you gotta respond directly to your opponents and also go through all of the points in your summaries. And also, you gotta use signposting, which means lining your reasoning and contentions and rebuttals clearly to make the judge to make it easier for the judge to track your contentions and logic. So yeah, that's a few abilities I think I deem essential to being a successful debater. And let's move on to my final focus. Well, I mentioned a lot of forms of debate, and apparently they look different in the outlook. However, I believe that they are similar in essence. For example, the BP, the PF, and WSDC, and also Chinese debate I mentioned previously. Well, they all have the essence of persuading others with logical reasoning, outweighing confrontations, appealing to viewers, cooperating with teammates, and carrying out tactics. So yeah, that's basically my presentation about debate. And that's all for my speech. Thank you.